Disturbing. Yes.
I never know.
Okay, let's do disturbing. Okay, this is a story, and it's a Galway story, so folk from Galway kind of know this story, and it's one of the things I'm writing about just now, and that's going to be another book next year. And it's a story about a murder in Galway. A couple of murders in Galway. And I don't want to get into the murders in detail, but it gets a wee bit gruesome. Well, we're all adults here. We've all had a murder or two in our lives, you know what to do, you know. So, it's grand. So, I'm going to tell that story. And I'm going to start by having a wee sip of my juice here. The story begins. Oh my goodness, we're going right back to the 1980s. And it begins in Dublin. And there was a couple lived in Dublin called the Oakleys. Some of you have heard them already, but it's well worth telling the story because the way they get caught is quite magical. So the Oakleys lived in Dublin and they were struggling to get by. And then one day, Mrs. Oakley, she got a letter. And all good stories start with a letter. She opened the letter and it was from a lawyer from here in the West, in Galway. And he said, you've just come into an inheritance. You've got an uncle, he's died, he's left you his land, he's left you some money, you know, he's left you a wee house out in the countryside. And for those, just to give you an idea of the countryside, if you kind of go along beyond Gorts, kind of travel N17, beyond there is the countryside we were talking about. And there's lots of wee winding roads out there. There's like kind of wee farmsteads that kind of tuck in behind wee hills and wee forests. So that's where this property they've got inherited. And the lawyer says, I can sell it for you, send you on the money, or you can come and look at it and see what you think. So, you know, the Oakleys are in Dublin. It's kind of 1980s, it's not the most exciting place. So I said, we'll go to the West and we'll look at this property. So the lawyer wrote back to them, there's no internet, so there's a lot of writing and stuff, you know, or putting the change in the phone. And he says, okay, and I had to draw a wee map. He said, okay, you go by Gort, you go off the wee windy roads, and then you come to a road, and it's kind of quite bendy. There's one bend, there's a second bend, there's a third bend, then the road straightens up. When the road straightens up, there's a kind of gate in a lane, stop there, and I'll meet you. So that's what they do. They got a car, came to the West, they went by Gort, they went one bend, the second bend, the third bend, drove on a wee bit, and stopped. And there was the lawyer, okay? And so the lawyer said, okay, let's go and look at your uncle's land. So they went to look at the land, and they went, and then it was nice, it was kind of nice sloping fields, there was a wee kind of bungalow, and then beside the bungalow was a kind of fenced off herb garden, and the reason it was fenced off is because there was goats there as well. There was lots of goats. And then kind of looking back towards the road, you could see the road was screened by trees, and in front of the trees was a long milking shed, okay? And the lawyer said to him, okay, the big shed there, your uncle, he had a plan, he was going to get some cows, he was going to make a dairy herd, but you know, before he could buy it, he died. But he got everything else, he got the shed, he got all the electric wires, he got big lamps, he got an electric generator, but then he died. I can sell all that stuff, says the lawyer. And the Oakleys looked at him, and it's one of those kind of decisions you make. The Oakleys looked at the lawyer and said, you know what, this is amazing, you're giving us money, you're giving us the house, we're going to stay here, don't sell it, we're going to stay on this land, we're going to stay with the goats, we're going to do the full thing. And keep the shed there as well, because we might get cows, we don't know what we're going to do, just leave it for the moment. And the lawyer said, grand. So they moved in. So these Oakleys have come from Dublin, and they're now here in the West, and they've got their own little farm, they've got a farm there, the goats in the house, and they move in, and it's absolutely wonderful, okay? Nothing bad could happen, trust me. It's wonderful. They move in, it's summer, you know, even when it rains, the rain's beautiful, the sun's shining through it, they've got the little fields, they've got the trees there, and everything is absolutely fine, okay? And then Mrs. Oakley, she kind of really gets into the whole goat thing, and she's starting to milk goats. Actually, I do used to milk goats, not a job I had. But anyway, so she milked goats, and she began to make goat's cheese, right? So she began to sell the goat's cheese. She'd go up to Galway. If you go to the market on a Saturday, there's a goat's cheese stall in the market. That used to be their stall, and then it was taken over by a couple who are there now, I think they're Dutch. But that's when they come up and they'd sell cheese, right? So they're selling the cheese from the goats, okay? They've got the money, they're living the life, they're living the whole goat cheese life out in the West, all right? Everything's grand. And then Mr. Oakley, he starts with little part-time jobs up in Galway, and everything's grand. However, the farm next door to them, the field next door to them, there was a fella lived there, and he was an old bachelor farmer, all right? And old bachelor farmers, some of them are very, very, very lovely, but some of them have been a wee bit isolated before for quite a bit of time. So he lived next door. And one day, Mr. and Mrs. Oakley are walking down the lane by their house, the lane between their land and his land, they're walking down the lane, and the wee farmer, the wee bachelor farmer's walking up the lane. And he's looking very spruce, you know, he's got his 3 hairs, they're kind of plastered over. He's got a brand new bit of string tied up his trousers, you know, he's looking quite jaunty. And he's walking up the road, looking quite jaunty, and they're walking down the lane, and they say to him, "Good morning." And he stopped. And he looked at Mr. Oakley and he went, "Good morning." And then he looked at Mrs. Oakley, and he just looked at her. And then he walked by. And Mrs. Oakley looked at her husband and said, "Did you see what he did there? Did you see what he just snubbed me?" And Mr. Oakley went, "Oh, wife, calm down. He's a bachelor farmer. He probably doesn't even know what you are. You know, he's the round shape and everything. Don't worry about it. It's grand. It'll be fine." But this kind of went on, okay? They'd see him every so often. They'd say good morning to him. And he'd greet, you know, Mr. Oakley, but Mrs. Oakley, he'd blank her. And she was starting to get a wee bit put out with this. She was saying to her husband, "You know, it's not just that he blanks me. Sometimes the way he looks at me, kind of just stares at me. She says, there's something wrong with him." Her husband says, "Do you know what? It's fine. He's just getting used to you. As soon as he knows you, he'll love you like everybody else would love you because he's the most lovely woman ever, wife." She's like, "Oh, husband." And this went on for a wee while, okay? And then it was coming in kind of late summer, early autumn. And Mr. Oakley was away working in Galway. And Mrs. Oakley was on her land herself, doing the things with the goats and the hares and all that kind of stuff. And then she was taking a walk down the lane. And walking up the lane was the wee bachelor farmer. So she's walking down and she's determined, even if he's not going to say hello to her, she's going to be a good neighbour. So she's walking down and she says, "Good morning." And he looked at her. And he stared at her. Then he walked by. And as he walked by, he taunted her. "Bitch," he said. "Yeah, bitch." And she stood there absolutely shocked. Before she could respond, he walked off. And that night, her husband came home and she said, Husband, I told you there was something wrong with that wee farmer. He taunted me. And he called me a bitch." And her husband went, Wife, calm down. He's a wee old man. He was a bit sugary on his legs. When he fell over, kind of just fell against you. And he probably didn't say bitch. He probably just was trying to say something nice like, "Oh, life is rich." She said, "Husband, I know the difference between rich and bitch. Trust me. It is not rich. You need to sort this out." And Mr. Oakley said, "Don't worry, wife. I'll sort it out. I'll go and talk to him, and this will never happen again, okay? And I want to point this out for this story develops. Mr. Oakley was determined to speak to the old man, okay? He got his husband's to-do list. He wrote on it, speak to the old bachelor farmer, and he really, really wanted to do it. But it kind of didn't happen right away. And so he kind of forgot about it, and it was kind of coming on now, kind of late autumn, and again it happened. She's walking down the lane, her husband's away, and he walks up, the old man, dunks her. Bitch, she says, yeah, who are you? Oh! And he walks away. Again, she says to her husband that night, husband, he's cursing me. The things he's calling me, you need to deal with it. And the husband's like, absolutely. I've got it written down on my husband to-do list. I'm on it. I'll sort it. And then for the next kind of month or so, everything was calm. And Mrs. Oakley thought, that's grand. My husband's talked to him, everything's okay. And then it was kind of coming into winter. And in winter you have to get your herb garden ready for the spring. And Mr. Oakley was away. And Mrs. Oakley, she's working in the garden beside the house. And she's working away. It was a kind of cold day. She's working away, getting the weeds and all that sorted. And she's working away. Suddenly there was a mighty smack. And a stone bounced off the side of the wall, whizzed by her face. And she turned around. And who was standing there but the old man, standing on her property, looking at her. Bitch. So that night, the husband came back home, and she said, husband, I'm leaving. I am going. He says, what's wrong? That man, that wee old bachelor father I've been telling you about, I've been telling you there was something wrong with him. He's throwing stones at me. I am telling you, there is something profoundly wrong with him, and I feel sickened, the danger by that old man. I am leaving. I am going. I'm packing my bag, and I'm leaving. And finally, Mr. Oakley, the penny dropped. He checked his list. Oh, I should have dealt with that. He said, okay, wife, let's talk. Don't go yet. And he done all that really wonderful active husband listening, okay? Sat down. I'm actively listening, wife. She kind of looked at him and went, okay. In fact, I'm actively listening. I'm going to open a bottle of wine to show you. She went, all right. So he opened up the wine. Boop. He poured a glug of wine. She'd a sip and he'd a sip. And they spoke. And it was wonderful. She told all her fears and her worries. And he was actively husband listening. And it was very good. But the problem was, it was very good, they were doing the right things, except they were drinking wine. Okay? They were drinking a lot of wine. And at some point in the evening, when they're getting very drunk, Mr. Oakley turned to Mrs. Oakley and says, now tell me, just sum it up for me so I can get it right in my head. What is the main issue here? And she looked at her husband and said, the main issue is that old man. He's putting the fear on me, she said. He's putting the fear on me. And Mr. Oakley said, oh, that's grand. We'll just put the fear back on him and he'll never bother you again. Let's have some more wine. So they drank a bit more wine and they came up with a plan. And we've all been there. We've all been drunk. And we come up with a plan when you're drunk. And it's a great plan. It's wonderful. It's the most precise, fantastic. It's like you're attached to the cosmic wonder of philosophy and thought and profundity because you're pissed. And they come up with this plan. And they were saying to each other, we'll put the fear on him. How will we do it? Well, in that far down there, the big cattle shed that's never been used, there's lamps. And there's wiring. And there's an electric generator. Husband, what we can do is we know he goes drinking. He goes for a wee pint on Friday nights, goes up to Gort, and he drives back in the middle of the night. And he drives round the one bendy road, and the second bendy road, and the third bendy road, and then he kind of drives on. Why don't we get the lamps? Why don't we do that, wife? Listen, husband, keep listening. We're going to get the lamps, and we're going to hang them up in the trees. All right, wife. Actively husband listening. We're going to hang them up, and then the lights will switch them on. Huh. And the lights are going to go around one bend. The second bend. Got that. Round the third bend, husband. And then straight on. No, husband. And then they'll have the lights going off to the left there. But wife, if they go off to the left, then he'll be going off the road into, he'll be going towards the big oak tree at the bottom of the hill there. She went, that's right. he'll crash his car. He's a bastard. The thing is, he drives slow, and he'll just smack it a wee bit, and then we'll come out and go, you fecker, that's you, next time I'll kill you. And the husband, oh, wife, that's the most amazing idea ever. What could go wrong? So they went out, and they were very drunk, and again, it's that thing, we've all been there when you're so pissed, you can't even walk. But the stupidest things you can actually do with great exactitude, and they did it. They got in there, they got the miles of cabling, they got the lamps, they managed to get ladders, and it was pissing of rain as well. It's the middle of winter, they get one waterproof, they get wellies. They go up and they do it. They hung the lights from one tree to another tree, through all one bed, the second bed, the third strand, and then after the oak tree. Great idea. Nothing could go wrong. And then they were waiting in the shed there, and they heard the sound of a car in the distance. Wife, that'll be him. Let's switch on the lights. So they switched on the generator, and the lights came on. I went round one bend, and the second bend, and the third bend, and the lights went off to the oak tree. And of course, the car was coming down. And the car, it did have the wee old man in it. The wee old man was in the car. And he was pissed. He was very, very drunk. But the car was sober. This is important. The car was sober, okay? So he's behind the car, and even though he's a wee snooze, he'll wake up in the car and be veering off, and get in and wake himself up again. He's fine. The car's sober, he's drunk. And he's fine. He's taking it kind of walking pace in the car, and then he comes to the first bend, the wee old man, the wee old bachelor farmer, and he sees the lights. Ha-ha, there's lights. Now the thing was, when he was a child, he was a young man, he always wanted to be a Grand Prix racer. Right. Suddenly he sees lights on, and he's pushed, and it's like, there's nobody about, I'm going to put my foot down, and he did, he went whoop, and he accelerated round one bend, whoo, following the lights, round the next bend, following the lights, whoo, round the third bend, following the lights, whoo, and then off to the left, and bang! And Mr. and Mrs. Oakley are in the shed, and the old teacher went, that was a very loud bang. It was, husband, let's go and look. So they went to have a look, and they looked, and there was a tree, and there was the car. And the car was all kind of squashed against the tree. And they were looking at the car, and they looked in the car, and Mr. Oakley said, Mrs. Oakley, his body's facing that way, but his head is facing that way. Oh my God, he looks like a chicken's in his neck wrung. He's dead. And she looked at him and went, oh God, husband, he is, he's dead. We've killed him. Oh, and in a panic, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And suddenly, they're now sober. There's nothing like committing murder and sobering up. Just get drunk tonight. You can't walk. Go commit a murder and be sober. So they're sober. Oh! And they managed to get all the lights down, the cable down, they shoved it back to the shed, went in the house, they locked the door, they're in their own little house, and they were staying in the house, and they were shaking with fear and shaking with terror, because they know in the morning the guards are going to come and they're going to arrest them. A smashed car, a dead body. So now they're there, and they're in their house, and the terror's on, they're almost nauseous with the terror, waiting for the guards to come and knock the door, okay? And the whole long night went on, that whole kind of sense of fear and nausea just dragged on, and eventually at 7 in the morning, they turned on the radio to distract themselves. And there wasn't a wee news broadcast on the radio. And the news said, terrible tragedy over in the west, drunk farmer crashed his car. And suddenly, Mr. and Mrs. Oakley realised they got away with murder. And suddenly all that fear and nausea, suddenly transformed and all excitement and bubbling in their bellies, and they kind of went, oh wow, we done it, we killed the bastard and got away with it, oh wow! And they were so excited, and they were so happy, and they were hugging, and they were embracing, and they were tangling together, and then their clothing fell off. And they lay together as husband doth lay with wife. Oh, with a little bit of extra frizzing, okay? 9 months later, a baby was born. Okay? Yes, not Jesus, it was just a baby. called Katie. Katie's a nice name. So there's a wee girl. And suddenly the Oakleys, their life was wonderful. Okay? There's nothing could go wrong. Still nothing's going to go wrong. You just hang in there. So the Oakleys are very happy. They've got the goats. They've got the cheese. They've got the wee cheese thing up there. And they've got money, they've got the land, and they've got a wee baby. Everything is wonderful. Okay? Baby's born in the summer. It's a beautiful wee summer baby, a wee girl. And they're very happy. But the thing is, you know, as it comes into the winter, it's getting dark again, and they get the wee baby to sleep. Some nights, you know, they do a wee drink of wine in the Oakleys, and they'd remember. They remember killing the old bachelor farmer. And sometimes when they're having their drink, you know, they would kind of look at each other. And sometimes they'd take each other's hands, and that kind of wee electricity would go through them. They'd walk all the way down to the shed, there and all the lights and all the cables, and they'd touch the shed, and some of that kind of energy was going through them again, and then they would lay again together, okay? We're a bit kinky, this pair. So, then one night in the winter, it's very, very dark, and they were looking at each other and they were drinking, and the kind of feeling was building up. And one of them said to the other, let's do it again. And they did. There's a whole series of stories we go into about that. We're not going to go into all the details, but they did, as people who know around here. They did. It wasn't like every day they went out and slaughter folk. You know, they'd set the wee trap, and they would catch folk, and they'd put the lights out. And it maybe happened one year, maybe once. One year did nothing. There was one particular bad year, there was 3 accidents on that road. Excuse me. And they did it. And the thing is, not only were they doing it, when they were up selling their cheeses up here in Galway, they'd talk about it to their customers. They talked about it in code. They'd say, oh, we caught a fish once. We caught an old fish once. Or we caught a couple of young ones once. And they began to talk. So they were doing these killings, and they were talking about the killings, and they were kind of really getting off on these killings. And the other thing was going on there, excuse me, when I was in the attic digging up the bodies, just with those. If you go into YouTube, just a distraction, go to YouTube and check this out. There's a clip from RTE from the time, because there was a lot of folk, there was lots of different places around Ireland having problems with roads, lack of investment, potholes, and there was accidents and stuff. And so down there there was a wee group to try and stop the car crashes, not just there, it was around the place. And there's a wee clip from RTE talking to locals about car crashes, bad roads. And in that clip, Mr. and Mrs. Oakland are there. They are concerned locals. At that point, the wee daughter, she's about 7, if you go and check it out. And they're talking. Oh, it's a terrible thing. Cars keep crashing by your house. Oh, dearie me. And they got involved in all this, and it was them doing it, okay? So, that's what was happening. Some years it would be any accidents, some years it would be a couple, and it was them. And this went on for a long stretch of time. Now, I guess the reason they didn't do it every day is because they were raising a child. And you know, raising a child takes a lot of time, okay? It's kind of hard to be a mass murderer and raise children. You know, we've all been there. But, you know, they were talking to each other. They knew at some point their daughter would grow, she would leave, and they had talked about it. What do we do when she goes? I mean, how do we contain ourselves? Because they knew they had a problem, okay? You know, they discussed this. Katie grew. Then she was about 17 or 18, she headed up here to Galway, and she studied at university. She studied classics and history. She was 18 up in Galway. And so now she left the house, and the Oakleys were in the house themselves, with nothing to restrain them. And all that spark and that need and that desire every day and every night and every murderous minute of every day, that urge was on them. And they had to fight the urge down, and they were looking at each other saying, we can't do this, we have to stop, we have to stop. Maybe wife can go to the AA, you know. She's like, AA for serial killers? No, just have to stop. So finally it's come to the winter again, and things, they managed to keep up with the goats, and they keep up with the cheese, and they managed to stay focused, and they managed not to murder anybody. And every so often, Katie, she phones down every weekend, she chats to them about what she's doing, they chat to her, but all the time there's sweat on their brow. They really, really, really need to do it again. And they looked at each other one night and they realised this was getting really out of hand. And one of them said to the other, okay, we need to make a pledge, we're going to stop. And the other one said, okay. And they made the pledge. And they pledged, we solemnly pledge, we are never, ever going to do this again. We're going to absolutely stop. After the next one. You know, like it is, you try to smoke and you have the last one just to kind of quit. We'll do one last one, and that'll be us, quit. And they did one last one. And again, it was a wet winter night, and they went out, and they hung the lamps up in the trees, and all the wiring, and they waited. And they waited and they waited. At 3 in the morning, they heard a car coming, so they switched on the lights. And all the lights came on around the first bend, and the second bend, the third bend, and off to the oak tree. And they heard a car whizzing and whizzing and whizzing, and then the car smacked into the tree. Huge smacking noise. And they ran out, they're really pleased with looking at each other, saying, well, let's go and see what fishes we've caught. Let's see what wee fishes we've caught. And they were very excited. It's the last one. Let's go and have a look. And they went out, and oh my goodness, the mess. There was glass everywhere, there was blood everywhere. And they looked at the bodies in the car. They were all tangled together. They were looking at them saying, how many's in there? They're all smashed together. They lift up an arm and lift up a head. And I think there's 4 in there. And as they were looking in, Mr. Ugly's standing there. And suddenly turned to his wife and he said, wife, one of the fishes is still twitching. So it was, one of the bodies was still twitching. And she said, oh, you need to deal with it. You don't want a survivor. He said, okay, wife, okay, I'll deal with it. She said, well, I'm just going to look away because it's a bit disgusting. You deal with it. So he put his hand in and he scooped up this broken body that was twitching. And he took it to the field. He dropped it on the field. And God, the thing was still twitching. Oh! He went back to the shed and he got a shovel, as you do. He came back. And the twitching body was there, and he got the shovel and he went, bop, bopped it in the head, and it stopped twitching. Okay. He dug a hole, put the body in, covered the body up. I said, wife, it's sorted, I've dealt with it, no more twitching. The wife came back and she went, where's the body? I've buried it. Oh, husband, you're fool, you're fool. You should have put it back in the car. I can't put it back, it's covered in mud. Oh my God. And suddenly they realised they'd made a terrible mistake. Somewhere a car left with 4 people, it smashed up, there was now 3 in it, and the 4th person was missing, and they knew now they were going to get caught. And they went back to the house, they got all the lights in, all the wiring in, they put it back in the shed, and they went into the house, that nausea was on them again, and the fear, and this time they knew they were going to get caught. And they waited and they waited and waited. 7 o'clock in the morning, still no chap at the door, turned on the radio. News reports. Terrible tragedy in the west. Car crash. 3 fellas died. Nobody mentioned the 4th person. Nobody knew there was a 4th person. It was a hitchhiker or something. Suddenly realised they'd got away with it again. They'd got away with mass murder once more. And whether it was the devil or whether it was God, suddenly they felt so empowered and powerful, and they were again together, okay? They were very happy, as they do. So they were grand, and that was fine, you know, they'd done a bit of murder, buried the body, as you do. The weekend, they went for the phone call from Katie. No call came from Katie. And they waited, no call. During the week, they started calling around their friends, calling up to the university, trying to find their daughter. No sign of her. They got hold of the guards. Suddenly, a wee notice was put up around Galway. You know, student missing, call this number, all around Galway. 2 weeks. 2 weeks after that car crash, Down the Garda station, I don't know if you know Salt Hill down there, there's the Garda barracks in Salt Hill. Well, in the barracks, if you go into the barracks, there's a kind of wee room there, and they've got a kind of glassed off kind of wee counter. And what the guards do, they've got these big ledgers. So when you go in to say anything or make a report or anything, you open the ledgers and they write down everything you say. Okay, so you kind of have a record, and that's why we know what was going to be said in a minute. So there's a guard in there. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. This was like 2 weeks after the car crash, and she was in there. And she was sipping her juice, okay, because she'd been cleaning her attic as well. And as she was working away, the door opened. And she kind of looked, and a figure came in. And it was a young woman. And she realised there was a woman in the poster. It was Katie Oakley. And Katie Oakley came up to her. And she said, I want to report something. And the guard said, well, let's get your details first. So she kind of started writing down. What's your name? Katie Oakley. She started writing down all the details. What do you want to report? She said, I want to report a murder. And the guard was thinking, okay, now we know what's happened to this student. She's probably drinking or on drugs or something. What do you mean a murder? I want to report my parents as murderers. And the guard said, okay, talk to me. And so Katie spoke and the guard wrote it all down. She said, I broke up with my boyfriend a couple of weeks ago. 3 lads agreed to give me a lift back to my house. I told them it was a dangerous road there, curves on the road, be careful. He said, okay. I fell asleep in the back of the car. So when I woke up, there was lights, and the car was going so fast, and then the car smacked into a tree. Oh, and there was pain, there was blood, and there was glass everywhere, and I felt so broken. And I was lying there in the blood. And suddenly the door of the car opened, and my father was there. And I was so happy my father was rescuing me. But my father looked at me, and then he looked at my mother and he said, wife, one of the fishes is twitching. And then he picked me up. And he took me to the field, he dropped me in the field I used to play in when I was wee. And then he went off and he came back with a shovel and he smacked me on the head. And then he dug a hole and he put me in the hole and covered me up. So I want to report him as a murderer. The bank guard wrote this all down, and then she asked the obvious question, which was, if your father threw you on the ground, cracked you in the head with a shovel, and then dug a hole, and put your body in the hole, and then covered it up, how did you get out? And Katie Oakley looked at the band guarder, and she said, I didn't. I'm still there. And with that, she vanished. And this was all written down. And the band guarder was also a bit freaked out with this. But you know, she was quite professional and these things happen. You know, had she, dead bodies, but was it some sort of insight she had? Was it kind of visions because she was thinking of things and she remembered the crash 2 weeks ago? And it all kind of came together and she called up to Gort and she said, I think there's a problem with that car crash. She didn't see why she thought it was a problem. She said, I think you need to check the car if you still got it. And they checked the car, and that's how they found out there was 4 blood stains in the car instead of 3. And one thing led to another, and eventually, a couple of days later, the Oakleys were in their house, there was a chap at the door, and they opened the door, and there stood the guards. And the guards said, we're here to talk about the accident the other week. And the Oakley said, oh, it was terrible, 3 young lads died. And the guards went, no. Our understanding there's a 4th person in the car. And of course, the Oakleys, their faces went, no, there's only 3. Come in for a cup of tea and it was fine. But no, there was 4. We understand there was 4. There was a 4th person. We understand they were taken from the car. The youths took them from the car. You cracked them on the head. And you buried the body. And we believe the body is your own daughter, Katie Oakley. And it's at that moment that the Oakleys broke down and they admitted everything. To the shock of the guards, they suddenly admitted everything. All the killings. And of course they were arrested. The forensic crew came to the big tent, they dug up Katie Oakley's body, and suddenly the whole story came out. It was all over Ireland, this killing. And finally, they were jailed. And people were shocked. There was 18 years of these accidents happening just up the road. And it turns out they weren't accidents. It was actually the Oakleys carrying out these killings. And that's more or less the end of the story. There's a couple of wee things just to think about, okay? The first thing to think about is the Garda. What did she see that night? Was it actually a ghost? Or was it just her gut instinct visualising there was a problem and kind of working its way out? So that's one thing I'm going to leave with you, okay? And the second thing we can think about before we take a break is this. That road had a reputation as a bad road, okay? And all around Ireland there was bad roads. In fact, all around the world we have bad roads. And the question I'm going to leave with you is this. Are they bad roads? Or are there other Oakleys out there catching their little fishes?